very backward-looking society. We're backward-looking because we've all personally experienced the past. When we look around us, we see evidence of the past all around us. All information is essentially history. And yet we're going to be spending the rest of our lives in the future. So it's almost as if we are walking backwards into the future. My job as a futurist is to help turn people around, to give them some idea of what the future may hold. Let me start off with 3 crazy questions. The first one, if you could live on any planet in the universe, where would you live? Wow, turns out we don't know anything about other planets in the universe. If you had a choice to live anywhere in time, either in the future or the past, when would you live? Well, it turns out we don't know anything about the future. And for all intents and purposes, we know very little about the past. The amount of information that is unknown is far greater than any of the known information. Okay, one last question. Who in your mind is the most famous person of all times? This is in the non-religious world. Who in your mind is the most famous person of all times? And there's probably hundreds of different answers here. Since I run the DaVinci Institute, Leonardo da Vinci happens to be one of my favorite people. It could be Columbus, it could be Newton, Ataturk, could be Einstein, Edison, Gandhi. Maybe it's Darth Vader. Or maybe it's this guy. He's in the news a lot lately. But let's go with an assumption that the most famous person of all times is not known yet. We don't know who that person is. Now, this should be a real inspiring thought because there's an opening. You could become that person. You could become the most famous person of all times. If that's the case, then the logical question is what is the accomplishment that will make that person the most famous of all times? Another way of asking that question is, what are the big things that still need to be accomplished in the world? And how are the colleges and universities today preparing students to make that kind of accomplishment? Einstein has a fascinating quote. He says, everybody's a genius. If you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life thinking it's stupid. Two researchers at the University of Southern California did a study in 2009. They looked at all of the information we have coming into us on a daily basis, and they did something kind of interesting. They put it all into one common denominator, words. How many words do we have coming into our heads every day? It turns out in the United States, this is the number. The average person in the United States in 2009 had 100,500 words coming into their heads every day. The average person in the United States, and this is similar in a lot of other countries, is consuming information 11.8 hours a day, and that number is going up 2.6% every year. The logical question then is, where are all these words coming from? Well, it turns out that 41% is coming from television, 27% is coming from computers, 11% from radio, and 9% from print media. And incidentally, that's down from 26% back in 1960, and lesser amounts from other forms of media. So I looked at these numbers. I thought this is kind of interesting because what is the value of this information? I thought, well, if somebody is actually subscribing to lots of things, newspapers, magazines, television, a high-end information junkie, somebody that's pulling in lots of information, spending 10 lira per day, 300 lira per month, that works out to 99.5 lira per million words. And then I thought, well, how does that work out with colleges? An Ivy League college costs a lot of money to go there. That works out to 27,713 lira per million words. A radical difference. Of all of the information, and we're consuming information 11.8 hours every day, somewhere in the middle of that is the education part, and the rest of it somehow doesn't seem to count. So the question I always love to ask is, how much are your words worth? By 2022, within the next 10 years, we're going to see a tremendous amount of jobs go away. And these are all because of automation. We're creating things in much more automated fashion. 1 billion jobs are going to go away within the next 10 years. That's 1 out of every 4 jobs in the world. By 2030, that number will grow to 2 billion jobs will disappear. This means that we're going to have to run very fast to catch up and create new jobs at the same time as the old ones are going away. We have a lot of push going on over the next couple decades here. And somehow we need to create an education system that is going to keep up with this changing pace. Now, if any of you are familiar with the open courseware movement, the open courseware movement is where they're recording classes, they're posting it online. And this all took off when MIT started posting courses online. They're available for free. Started in 2001. Currently, MIT has 2,080 courses that they have online. These courses have been downloaded 131 million times. The Khan Academy started in 2004, has 2,800 courses. They have a great way of teaching science and math. Their courses have been downloaded 116 million times. And there's lots of other players in this universe, but the 8,000-pound gorilla here, the one that's changing the world that we haven't heard much about yet, is iTunes U. This is Apple Computers, runs iTunes, and they have over 1,000 universities participating. This started in 2007. Over 500,000 courses, and these 500,000 courses have been downloaded 700 million times. Now, iTunes U has just decided they're going to also go into K through 12. So far, they've only been dealing with colleges. And a new player, the new kid on the block, if you will, just started 6 months ago. Code Academy started in the second half of 2011. They teach people how to become programmers. They've had over 1 million classes downloaded in the first 6 months. So with all of this activity taking place in the open courseware movement, what's missing? What's the next steps that's going to happen here? Well, first of all, nobody has really invented a rapid courseware builder, something that can build these courses quickly. All of these are painstaking, laborious efforts to put these up online. We haven't got any standards yet. Some of them are 2 hours long, some of them are 8 hours long, some of them are 20 minutes long. There's no sustainable paid model. All of the ones I just talked about, those are all free. Anybody in this room can go online and take courses from 1,000 different universities for free. If you want to get credit for them, then you have to pay a lot of money. We don't have any student-driven rating systems, so it's hard to compare apples and oranges. We don't have a preference engine. We don't have something that says this is what you need to take next. And we don't have an alternative credentialing system. College credits give colleges the advantage, and that's where that's all working. But what's happening here is all the courses are turning into commodities. So what's happening next is colleges and universities are going to split into two different sides. We're going to have one side that focuses on course delivery, and course delivery is going to get very competitive. As college courses become commodities, there's going to be a lot of pricing competition that happens there. The other side of the equation is colleges that will focus on knowledge creation, research institutions, and new types of knowledge creation. We're essentially shortening the distance between experts and the students. In the past, you might have only had 2 or 3 experts in the world. For that information to make it into a college classroom, the experts had to train the trainers had to train the teachers put it into a curriculum, and that's a 5-year process if it ever makes it into a classroom. Now, we can create courseware, and suddenly, students have access to it instantly. So, on the course delivery colleges in the future, these are 8 things you won't find. You won't find a physical campus. That's going to go away. You won't find dormitories. You won't find expensive textbooks. You won't find the whole idea of credit hours, 4 years degrees. 4 years is far too long. People need to be retrained quicker. As all of these jobs go away, we need to reboot our skills, reboot our social circles, and to move into the new job quickly. You won't find sports teams. You won't find classrooms. And most importantly, you won't find the teacher in the front of the room. See, we're moving from a teaching model to a learning model. Teaching requires experts. If we're moving into a learning model and we have open courseware, learning only requires coaches. So I like to think about this concept of the prime directive. If any of you have watched Star Trek always talks about the prime directive, and it never made any sense to me. It's kind of a crazy notion of why are we going into space and exploring everything. So why are colleges doing what they're doing? In the past, colleges were doing what they're doing because education has been this process by which society deliberately transmits its accumulated knowledge, skills, and values from one generation to the next. This is kind of the definition that we take out of the textbooks. That model is not going to work in the future. Colleges who focus on knowledge creation will focus more on the experience. So there's great value in the experience. Is it more important to live through a famine or to study famines? Is it more important to live through a business failure or to study business failures? Do you get more out of studying some sort of a civil war or crisis that's happening around the world, or to actually experience it yourself? Or can you do both? Education is pretty thin stuff unless it's mixed with experience, according to Clarence Day. Courseware will become the new medium for transferring knowledge from one generation to the next. Now I'm going to take you through a couple quick scenarios here of colleges in the future. Scenarios are a way of describing possible futures, and they're based on current trends. So colleges in the future will be at the forefront of every major global challenge. So something like the Costa ship that went down by Italy, colleges in the future will be sending teams out to a disaster area like this. They'll be studying everything from what effect it's had on the community, what effect it had on the crew, on the passengers, what effect it's having on the cruise industry. Lots of information can get created out of this. Now, these research projects will be used to generate a constant stream of new courseware. Again, courseware becomes this new commodity. It becomes the new way of transferring information from one generation to the next. Colleges will work closely with business and industry They're going to solve problems, they're going to create new products, and create a lot of courseware that goes along with that. College campuses, we won't need the big expansive campuses that we have today. They're going to transition more into educational colonies. Educational colonies is it's a group of entities that work together on the same thing, but it won't all be under one umbrella. Educational colonies will create lifelong memberships with all the members, people that are participating in it. Along with this lifetime membership colleges will start experimenting with higher and higher achievement levels. People that can get PhDs or master's degrees, those are going to be junior level achievements in the future, as people are going to be learning their entire lifetime. We have lots of challenges in the future. The more technology we start using, the more we're dependent on that, the more breaking points we're going to have. Our current systems are collapsing at a record pace. We're moving from national systems to global systems, and things are breaking down all around us. The future will be our greatest adversary. The battles that lie ahead will test us on every conceivable level. We need to prepare people for an entirely new battlefield. In short, colleges need to create a better grade of human. So rather than having a prime directive of education as a process by which society transmits accumulated knowledge from one generation to the next, I would like to propose a new prime directive for colleges and universities. The new prime directive I propose is preparing humanity for worlds unknown, preparing minds for thoughts unthinkable, and preparing our resolve for struggles unimaginable. And with that, I'd like to thank you for having me here today. Thank you.